Welcome to another in our series of Voices from Around the World. This time, let's hear from Unmesh Brahme, who is an ISSP board member who is based in Mumbai, India. So the sound quality is a little not so good because of the speed of the internet in Mumbai, but I hope you'll be interested in what Unmesh has to say about the state of sustainability in India and what we can learn from them. So I strongly believe that there's a lot that the developed world can learn from the developing world, because we share a lot of the same problems, but you guys don't have the same amount of money to throw at the problems, so that often yields creative solutions that we don't think about. So are there some things happening in India that you think are really good examples, some best practices that could be used by other countries?
Yes, there are many, though they are, you can count them on your fingertips, but yes, there are, let me rephrase that. There are not so many good practices. There are a few of them which you could count on your fingertips. For example, we have a large corporation in India called ITC, which has businesses right from luxury hotels to fast-moving consumer goods into food and beverages, so on and so forth. So realizing that they have to source their agricultural raw material and commodities from farmers, ITC has systematically created for farmers the right pricing system so that they are able to sell their produce on the market, which allows them to benefit from the best prices available at that point of time. ITC is also working with these farmer communities to ensure that they provide them inputs on the right kind of agricultural techniques. They provide them with information technology services. Today, if you go to a remote village in the country, you will find that ITC has installed a really systematic internet interface along with a dish antenna and whatnot for villagers to be able to learn from what is happening in the world around them. Sitting in the village, they are able to get prices for the commodities they are wanting to sell and therefore benefit from it. So that's one. The Tata Group is also a very good example because they have been practicing inclusive philanthropy for as long as one can remember. They have their own code of conduct in terms of how they would treat their employees. Tata is the only corporation or the only group in India who have a Human Development Index, which looks at all stakeholders and their relationship to the Tata Group of companies and how they would implement various projects and various commercial activities while simultaneously considering how it could benefit not only customers but also a community at large. I think everyone else is doing what they can, but it's not at the level of institution. So it has not got institutionalized. It's a drop in the ocean right now. It's unfortunate that best practices in the country are shared in a very chest-beating manner, in the sense that I do it, therefore I am right, and this is how it is done, instead of learn from it. So there is lots to be done in terms of removing the jargon, removing the administrative details which come forth.
Our connection's getting slow. Am I losing you?
Conferences on the issue and really look at very simple objectives. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I think Skype was getting slow there for a minute, but I think we're back.
Okay, fine. So I think one needs to work on issues which matter at the local level instead of creating large format projects which, while bringing to the table certain expertise, do not really make change on the ground. Let me give you an example again. Mumbai city, where I stay, has had poverty for as long as we know. The slum population in Mumbai at some point of time would have been 30%, 20%. Today, it's about 50%.
50?
So, absolutely. So, my housemate, my car driver, and people who work with me, people who work in offices at the level of administrative officers or clerks or peons, all go back and stay in really sad inner city communities and slums. Wow. Now, if I'm saying that Mumbai is the financial capital of India and we have the money to change the world, what about changing what's there in your backyard? And how does one really do that? So I think I'm not talking rocket science. Perhaps I'm trying to evangelize people in a different way by telling them that there is somebody needed who can talk basics instead of talking about public-private partnerships in urbanized scenario and create this jargon and not let anyone understand what's happening. So that's the issue. How do you really get a corporation and say to the corporation that, listen, here are 5 households who are poor for the last 100 years. Change them. If you can do those 5 households, you can do 50. Instead of saying that we do charity, we support a not-for-profit, they in turn do something somewhere else. So that connectivity is not happening. So there's a lot to learn from India also. There is money in India now. In fact, the news few days ago is India is setting up its own development aid agency, pretty much along the lines of USAID.
Yes.
So India is going to do bilateral aid assistance, perhaps as a strategic imperialistic expansion move, or trying to look at gaining foothold in the South Asian region. But it's good because there is money now, and I just hope that it doesn't become a way to look at having more exclusion of the marginalized. It becomes a way of looking at including the marginalized in serving not only the interests of the various nations in South Asia, but primarily also looking at helping these communities in distress by bringing them out of their pod. So I think that's where the entire thinking has to go. And if you must have read the very famous book Dead Aid, it explains a lot what has gone wrong with aid, and essentially how therefore it's important to not merely look at aid as the success, as the only way of achieving success, but to look at creating hybrid models, creating leadership potential, and trying to see how you can work together with a number of stakeholders.
So I really like what you're saying about needing to change business practices so that you're really lifting up and helping that it's a core part of your business. It's not just this little chunk of charity that you give away. So if that's the case, then what are the implications for sustainability professionals? Are there new skills that we need to learn? Are there new insights that we need to gain? How do we integrate this into our practice, and how do we bring that idea into our corporations?
Well, it's a very good question. I think instead of learning new skills, I think we need to first de-learn what we have learned, because all of us have learned so many things in a verticalized scenario that I could talk about development economics and not know what's happening in terms of health and the political economy of health. I may talk about ways and means of ensuring private equity enters the social space, but I wouldn't define or redefine private equity as meaning to benefit the masses. I would apply the same yardstick of incremental returns year on year. So that doesn't make sense. To give a quick example, when I work with my clients and when I look at private equity investing in these clients, I actually try and redefine the way managers in private equity and social venture funds think about impact. We have been hearing the word patient capital, but I think the way to success is to talk about patient returns. Because today, while you have patient capital, the expectations on returns in a social venture project are too high, which means that you are at the end of the day, again, breaking the back of the customers in trying to sell to them what they perhaps don't require, because there is an investee company who needs to make money out of it, because the investors are expecting to see returns. So I think as sustainability professionals, we need to do two things. One is unlearn the verticalization of respective disciplines, try and make convergence really happen across the board in terms of trying to see what's the role of a company in today's society. And I think not going back to saying that our role is only paying taxes and the government can take care of the poor. We need to actually try and go beyond that thinking to see that how a sustainability professional really is not merely somebody inside a corporation who dishes out money by asking for proposals, but is able to engage the senior management at levels of competency which are talking commercial sense, but also talking stakeholder sense. And I think I don't see this kind of thinking across any sustainability professional today whom I have dealt with, because I had a large peer group during my time at Ogilvy, during my time with HSBC. I used to bump into many heads of sustainability with many corporations, and 9 out of 10 times, Darcy, they used to be involved in plain vanilla philanthropy. And it never used to go beyond that. So I think as professionals, we need to redefine our art. redefine the way we practice the scientific elements of the art, try and make it as easily accessible in terms of meaning and substance to a number of people. And there's still a joke which runs, right, that if you go and tell somebody you want to help the poor or you want to work for the environment, they will say, I didn't understand what you said. But if you try to organize it in such an interesting way and say that participatory rural appraisal to look at this disenfranchised communities at the bottom of economic pyramid such that they are able to come out of the despicable situation you have got the project. So I think we need to make things clear. We need to make things simple. It's like meeting a few doctors who sit down with you and tell you what's wrong with you. So others who keep on glaring at the X-ray and keep on scaring you with bombastic medical terminology. This field has become too jargonized. It's become too technical. It's become too difficult for the common person to even lay a finger on what you have to do. So I think that simplicity and certainty has to be introduced. And I think professionals need to be able to collaborate more effectively. And I think ISSP is a very good platform for that to happen. I would be a very strong and vocal supporter of ISSP even trying to work itself on the number of projects, along with its team of professional members, because otherwise, how would they come together and think differently? You will still have people coming to the conference and thinking in their own silos and going back and repeating perhaps the mistakes they should not. But imagine if they're working on a rainforest conservation project in Congo together with all their skills and all their positive intent and all their fallacies and everything. Then you will actually have a real game changer scenario where you actually create impact because people realize what is the common thread binding them. And I think as professionals, we don't know what is the common thread binding us. And it's very sad that that's not happening.
Well, very interesting. The idea of doing projects together, basically. That's an exciting idea. Well, Unmesh, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know it's late your time, so thank you for sharing your background and your insights about what's happening in India, and thank you as well for being on our board. I do appreciate the contributions that you make.
Darcy, thank you so much, and thanks for your kind patience in trying to reschedule this. I know we had to do this rescheduling so many times, so my apologies again. It has really been a terrible, wet few months in the city. I'm so happy we could speak today.
Okay.